Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Sheehan, clinical psychologist for 50 years now, 50 plus years as a psychotherapist. And I have some suggestions here on the COVID-19. I'd like to talk with you about the COVID-19 because I think it's an opportunity in disguise if you learn to think of it that way. So I think the first thing to think about is that this doesn't have to be a terrible setback. This can actually be an opportunity in disguise, an opportunity to talk to your children, to play with your children, to create events for your children, to get to know your children better, to get to sit down and talk with them, to get to do things that you've always wanted to do around the house and never really had time to get to them. Lots of opportunities in disguise. I think that's the first thing to do. I think one of the things that's also really important to do is to know fear. Fear is really important right now. If we become too afraid, we will not cope well. It's important not to let fear get inside of you. Anxiety, all anxiety is fear. If you're feeling anxious, identify it as fear. And when you can get to the roots of that fear, you can conquer the fear. But you don't know what to conquer until you get to the roots. Over and over again, for 50 years in my practice, I've dealt with anxiety and depression. And anxiety was always interesting because that was an opportunity to do an investigation into where that anxiety came from. And over again, with my folks I work with, we were able to find where it came from. And once you can find where it came from, then you can conquer it. You can't conquer fear until you know what the fear is. And anxiety is merely fear that you haven't identified the source for. You're also much more vulnerable to depression because you're stuck inside the house and it's dark, gray days. Know this, that the sunshine actually creates serotonin in your brain, which is what the antidepressants, if you take them, are really all about. Antidepressants are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. They basically keep the serotonin in your brain. So one of the things you want to do is if you don't have sunlight, find bright light. Sit under bright light and read. Get outside if you can and get sunlight, whatever sunlight you can get. Although this part of the world is awful dark this time of year, be aware that darkness can often help create the depression, and try to set up situations where you have lots and lots of bright lights for your kids as well. In order to defeat depression, it's important to move. So getting outside and walking is a good thing. Find a way to get out with your kids and play with them outside. You can play catch, you can go to the swings, weather permitting, go to the park. There's lots of things we can do without risking getting contaminated by the COVID-19 virus. So find those things where you can be active with less than 10 people and keeping your social distance. And that doesn't mean you can't play. Playing is good. Kids need to play. So find opportunities to play with your kids and create your own games if you have to. So again, see this as an opportunity in disguise, and you'll cope with it much better. Another way you can take advantage of this COVID-19 situation now that the kids are at home and looking for something to do and bored to tears and trying to find something exciting and adventuresome to do, you can call family meetings and start the process of family meetings. And in this family meeting, you can go over the history of your family. It's an opportunity to talk to your kids about the history of grandma and grandpa, of great-grandma and great-grandpa, all the things they don't know about your family. Get out family pictures at the family meeting and familiarize your kids with your family in ways that you don't normally have time to. Take advantage of this time. Make it into something really good that grows your family, makes your family stronger and closer because you know and care about each other. It's a great opportunity in disguise. Take advantage. Another thing that you can do during this time when you're stuck at home or feel you're stuck at home is to make contact with old friends that you haven't talked to in years. Pick up the phone. Calling people on the phone is no risk at all with the COVID-19. Call old friends. Call old family members. Take care of old unfinished business with folks that you may have had issues with. And see this as an opportunity in disguise to turn things around with old friendships and revive them and bring them back to life. That's another possibility. This is a great time to put some time and energy into training your dog. Training your animals so that years in the future, when your dog is so well trained and walks right next to you when you're out on the trail, you can look back and say, hey, we did this during the COVID-19 scare. We put our time and energy into training these animals so we can even be more loving to them. The more you train your animals and they respond to your command, the more you can actually communicate with them and get closer to them. It's also an opportunity to get closer to your animals, whether they be parrots or dogs or cats or ferrets or whatever kind of animal you love. Get closer to your animals as well. Again, make this an opportunity to grow your love because you're not so preoccupied with work and other things. This is not a time to be feeling sorry for yourself. That's the worst way to cope with this situation, is letting yourself imagine the worst, imagine all kinds of terrible things, and letting yourself slide downhill, okay? This is not a time, for self-pity. No self-pity, no fear. Those are the rules. Get through this. One of the fun things I love to do, either with a friend or by myself or with my lady, is to go through books like this and just look at the pictures and talk. This happens to be a book on wonders of the world. I have bunches of them that you can get at the bookstore. Lots of time you can get them on sale, and they're generally considered books that you put out on your coffee table. But this one is The Wonders of the World, and you just open anywhere in the book and you will see wonders of the world. The pictures are magnificent. All over the world, and you can read about the places and look at the pictures and chat about the world. It's like traveling without having to get on an airplane. And it's a great activity to do with a friend, with your mate, or with your kids. And to talk about places in the world where you may want to go. One of the things that's important to me, I try to always have a vacation plan. A great time to sit down with your family and talk about vacations that you want to take. Really exciting adventures that you'd like to go on. Maybe even one of these will come to fruition as a result of the COVID-19 scare. And you'll have a great adventure that you can look back on and say, we planned this during the COVID-19 scare. We were into taking setbacks and turning them into blessings in disguise. Another thing you can do is use this as an opportunity to grow your self-esteem. As the inventor of the self-esteem game, I would encourage you to play the self-esteem game with your kids. And during this time period, I'm going to be giving away free self-esteem games so that people can have the opportunity to improve their kids' self-esteem and their own, even though they may be stuck at home. I'll be giving you further news about where you can get free self-esteem games if you are sequestered or you are stuck at home with your kids. We'll have more information to follow on that, about how you can do that. We're working on coordinating with other folks in town to get you free games when we can, either through your school or through other folks in the community. Hey, if you like this video, please share it with your friends. Our mission is to get as many people as possible involved in turning this setback into a blessing in disguise and creating a more loving community out of this terrible setback to our world out here. If we can all cope that way, we'll be better off for the experience.